Today's lesson is about section 10.7 and is inscribed and circumscribed polygons. The objectives for today are recognizing inscribed and circumscribed polygons, applying the relationship between opposite angles of an inscribed quadrilateral, and identify the characteristics of an inscribed parallelogram. So to review, polygons are any shapes that have straight sides and are closed. A quadrilateral is a specific type of polygon in which there is only 4 sides, and a parallelogram is a specific type of quadrilateral where opposite sides are parallel. You may want to go back to chapter 5 and review the characteristics of parallelograms and quadrilaterals. They will come in very handy when you're doing your homework. So what is an inscribed or circumscribed polygon? An inscribed polygon is any polygon where the vertices of that polygon are on the circle. So here I have this triangle. You can call it ABC, you can call it whatever you want. All the corners of the triangle are on the circle. When it's circumscribed, that means the shape is on the outside. So all the sides of a circumscribed polygon are tangent to the circle. So if you remember it, inscribed, there's that first word there, in. It's inside the circle. And then the circumscribed, you kind of have the beginning of circumference. So if you remember, it's on the outside of the circle. And since they're tangent, they only touch the circle once. So we have 2 theorems for this section. The first one is if a quadrilateral is inscribed in a circle, its opposite angles are supplementary. So that means that opposite angles like A and C and D and B, because those are both opposite, they add up to 180 degrees. So if I'm given the measure of angle A, I can find the measure of angle C by knowing that they have to add up to 180. Same thing for D and B. Our next theorem says that if a parallelogram is inscribed in a circle, it must be a rectangle. So we can use 2 of our previous theorems to prove this. We have opposite angles of parallelograms are congruent. So that means A is congruent to C and D is congruent to B. And based on today's theorem, that opposite angles of inscribed quadrilaterals are supplementary. Well, if 2 angles are congruent and they have to add up to 180, then those angles must be 90 degrees. So I can redo those 2 angles with 90 degrees. I also know, same thing for D and B, that these 2 angles are congruent and supplementary. So if they're congruent and supplementary, they have to be 90 degrees. So therefore, if I have a parallelogram inside of a rectangle, or inside of a circle, it must be a rectangle. So only 2 examples today. It's a very short lesson today. We are told that angle S is 100 degrees, and we are given that angle T is 85 degrees. And I want to find angle R and angle U. So I want to find my other 2 angles. So based on the first theorem that said that opposite angles of a inscribed polygon are supplementary, I know that angle S plus angle U must add up to 180 degrees. So I plug in what I know. I know angle S is 100 degrees. I don't know angle U, so I just leave it alone. And I know they equal 180. So by subtracting 100 degrees from both sides, I get that angle U is equal to 80 degrees. See, wasn't so bad, was it? So let's do the same thing for angle R. Same thing, angle R and angle T are opposite angles here. So I know angle R plus angle T, again, add up to 180 degrees. Plugging in what I know that angle R plus 85 is equal to 180. So that means angle R must be equal to 95 degrees. Since I didn't write it down, I'll go ahead and write it down just in case. All I did was subtract 85 from both sides to get my 95 degrees. This is going to be the majority of your homework, is knowing that opposite angles are equal to 180. And our last example is we are given that the arc LM, so it's this arc right here, is equal to 80 degrees. We're also told that the arc LO, so that is this angle down, or this arc down here, is equal to 120 degrees. We want to find angle N and angle L. Well, if you notice, these angles are opposite each other, so you can bet that the theorem we had first is going to come into play where opposite angles are supplementary. But we're not given anything about the angles. But we do know, if you look here, if I extend the sides of angle N, you notice that it intercepts this big arc MLO. And based on a section earlier in this chapter, we were told that an inscribed angle is half the measure of its intercepted arc. So in this case, angle N is going to be equal to half of arc MLO. But we don't know what this whole arc is yet because we only know the parts. So I'm going to add up each part to find the total length of that arc. So angle N is equal to 1/2 of 200, which is 100 degrees. So angle N is 100 degrees. Now that I have angle N, I can easily find angle L by using the fact that angle L plus angle N is equal to 180 degrees, sorry. So angle L plus 100 degrees is equal to 180. Subtract 100 from both sides. So we know angle L is equal to 80 degrees. So remember, opposite angles add up to 180. And inscribed angles are half the measure of its intercepted arc. So I have two examples for you today. I want you to try them. In this example, we are given that angle A is 56 degrees and angle B is 88 degrees. Find angles C and D. So this is just like example 1, so feel free to go back and use it for help. And example 4. This one's going to be a lot similar to example 2, but a little bit different. We're told that arc GH, this top arc right here, is 75 degrees. We're also told that arc HJ, this arc right here, is 35 degrees. And to add on to this, we're told that angle G is congruent to angle J. I want you to find all 4 angles for me. You can find K and H by using the same method we used in example 2, but to find G and J, you're going to have to remember what all 4 angles of a quadrilateral add up to. I'll give you a hint, it's not 180 degrees. So find H and K, and then use the fact that G and J are congruent, and that all 4 angles of this quadrilateral have to add up to a certain number. Make sure once you have these done, you take the quiz on Edmodo. It has to be done on a computer, it cannot be done on a phone. Make sure you're putting an answer in for every question though. Even if you don't have an answer to that question, just put something down.